Hello guys, in this video we're going to build this iPhone dialer where you can actually type in the numbers and you can also clear it. You'll notice that the backspace key only appears when there is a number to clear, otherwise it's not there. And we're going to build it using Apple's official UI kit. So when you build it once, you will also automatically have the light mode built for you by just changing the variable mode. So let's see how to build that. I have imported a screenshot from my iPhone as a reference. So I'll hit F and I'll select a frame. You can select whatever frame you want. Now I want to add a background color. So I will first import the UI kit. So for that you go to assets and click on this book icon. And now I have already added it to my file, but you will go to UI kits and here you will find the Apple UI kit and just click on it and it will add it to your file. The good thing with adding the UI kit is that you have access to all of the color variables and whole lot of other things, which makes it very fast to make screens. So I want to give it a background. I'll select background primary. Now I like to work in dark mode. So I'll go to page and I'll change the system color to dark. So everything is using the dark mode. Now go to assets and I'll search status bar. There's the iPhone status bar. I'll align it to left and top and it's already the correct size for the screen. So I don't need to do anything. But if you're using a iPhone 13 screen size or iPhone SE, you'll have to resize it, but that's about it. Pretty easy to do. Next, I'll search for the home indicator and this is the one. Again, I'll align it to left and bottom. The next thing I'll add is the tab bar. This is for the iPad. I'll pick the one for the iPhone. Again, align it left and bottom. And I'll hit the opening square bracket to send it to the back. Now I'll go to my layers. I'll select this tab bar. And as you can see, the actual iPhone dialer screen does not have this gray background. So I'll open it up and I'll select the material and I'll just hide it. I see there's also an icon over here to add contact. I'm first gonna add that. I'll just make a text box and I'll just type in whatever and I'll double click on it. So it hugs the height and the width, the text box. So how icons work in Apple design system is icons are just text symbols like an asterisk or anything like that. The thing that you need to have for it to work is the SF Pro font installed on your computer. And if you're on Mac, you can just download it from the official Apple website. If you're on Windows, search SF Pro font for Windows and you can find it pretty easily. And another thing that you'll need is this application called SF Symbols. And what it does is it's got a library of all of Apple's icons. Now this app is only available for Mac. For Windows, I'll put a link to my Figma file in the description and you can just copy icons from my Figma file. The first icon I'm going to need is this person looking icon. So I'll just search person circle. This is the icon I'm looking for. I'll right click, copy symbol, and I'm going to double click and Control V. So now I have the icon here, but as you can see, it's not the correct size. So since we have the UI kit added to this file, I can go to typography and apply styles, and I can select one of these titles and you just try out a bunch of these to see what works. So title to regular looks fine for this. I'll also change the color to blue and I'll also hit Shift A to make a frame around it, resize the frame to the width of the phone and align it to right. I'll change it back to hug contents and now it's on the right. Now I'll hit Shift R and drag a guideline to see if it actually matches this icon. There's a bit of gap, so I'll reduce the padding, the top and bottom padding. And I also need padding from the left and right. On iPhone, it's mostly 16 pixels from the left and right. I didn't add the correct icons and text in the beginning for the tab bar. So I'll do that now. I'll first just rename everything. So now that I have all the labels with the correct names, I will add the icons now. The star is already there, so I don't need to change it, but I do need to change the selected tab. So I'll change that to 4 because the keypad is the selected one. Next, I need the symbol for recents. So I'll go back to my SF Symbols app. If you just search recent, you'll be able to find it. And I'll go and just paste it in here. It's symbol 2. Next is contact. Okay, so now our tab bar looks about right. We just need to work on the buttons now. You'll see we have a few different kinds of buttons. One is all of these digits with some text T9 characters under it. Another is symbols and then the backspace and the call icon. So let's first just make the digit buttons. We'll have to make a component for it. I will just make a text box. I'll write a random number in here. Double click the corner to set it to hug and I'll just duplicate it and write A, B, C and select them both and hit Shift A to add a frame. For the fill, I will go in and select the fill primary, and for the radius, I'll just hit enter 99. So it's a circle. Now I'll resize it So it is about the same size. So I think this is 80 pixels. Let's see if that's correct. Okay, so it's a bit smaller than 80. So it's 78 pixels. And I can hit this button to lock the aspect ratio so it always stays a circle. Now I'll need to make the size of the text correct. I also need to set it to center line. So I'll just select one of the options I have from the UI kit. So that didn't work. I think it's the biggest size. Okay, so even when I have the biggest size, it doesn't match with the actual design. I'll have to detach this and increase the size to match the actual screen. I think this is it. Yep, matches exactly. Now I'll go and change the text size for this. Let me try the smallest text size there is. Okay, so two things here. One, this text uses a slightly heavier weight for the text, so I'll choose the emphasized style, but also it's still a bit bigger right now, so I'll have to go in and detach it. It's not really recommended to detach things, but since we're trying to make it look exactly or as close to the actual iPhone screen as possible, that's the only thing we can do right now. Now we're gonna set the gap to the correct one. This still needs to be a bit smaller, so I'll just resize the height. Okay, that didn't work. Let me change this to 10, or maybe reduce the line. Oh yeah, now it just worked. Okay, so now that we have a button looking pretty much like the actual buttons on the iPhone dialer, we are going to make a component out of it. I'll hit this button and now it's a component. I will make this into a text property by clicking here, and I'll click on this plus button property. I'll call it digit and let the default value be whatever. For this, I'll go in and click here, click plus, and I'll change it to T9. And we also need a press state or a hover state. So I'm going to click on this button over here to add a variant. Now this is a component set and this will be our hover state. Ideally, this should be a press state, but the prototype just doesn't want to work well when there are multiple interactions set for the same event. So if you want to have two things happen at the same time when you hit a button, it just causes some problems. So I'll just set it to hover, name the property state. The variant is hover. This variant is, let's say, idle. And in order to make it a bit brighter, I will add in an ellipse, set it to absolute position, and I'll make it the same size as the button. And I will change the fill to white at 10%. So now we have a hover state and idle state. And I'll just set the constraints to left plus right and top plus bottom. So this way, if we decide to resize it, the ellipse will resize with the button. But we don't need it right now. It's just a good practice to, whenever you add a material, it's just a good practice to set the constraints well. Okay, so now we have our digit buttons. The other kind of button we have is this symbols button. Let's make that now. So I'll just copy this and detach this instance, and let's try and make it as close to the symbol button as we can. So I'm going to go back to SF symbols and I'm going to find an asterisk. There it is. And I'll paste it in here. Now the size is too big, so that means the text size has to be a different one, and I'm going to find something that's more appropriate. This looks about right. Yep, this looks pretty much like this one. So what you're going to do is do the same thing for this one. Make a component set like we did for the digit button. So I'm just going to do that now. And let's just rename these. Let's call it button digit, and let's call this button symbol. The other buttons we need are these two, so I'll just make those as well. Let me call this button call. Now let's make this backspace button. I'll just copy this detach instance and I'll rename it to backspace. Now when I search for the delete icon in the SF symbols app, you'll see that this has just a single color, whereas the icon here has two colors, gray and white. So what we need to do is click on this color, this tab, and you can switch the style of the icon. And now you can select it. If you just select the symbol, it won't be in two tones. So you'll have to copy image as, and just select SVG, and these settings should work. And you hit copy image. And now you command click to select this and hit Command Shift R to replace it with your new icon. Now this doesn't have a fill, so I'll just remove the fill from here as well. I'll make this a component. Let's just make this a component as well. Now we have all of the buttons that we would need. We want the backspace to only appear when there is something to delete, and at other times we want it to be hidden. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another variant. Go to your local variables and create a Boolean variable. Let's call it show backspace and let the default value be false. Now we're going to select this icon and go to appearance and apply this property. And for this one, we actually don't need the second one. We can just have this and change the variable property. So we'll just do that. Now let's start building our dialer. Now over here, I need a blank frame of the same size because otherwise it'll create problems when I'm trying to apply the auto layout in the wrap setting. So I'll just select everything and hit Shift A, and it automatically applied an auto layout in the wrap style. Let me now resize this to the entire width of the screen. Give it a bottom padding of 56 because it seems like that's the gap it has from the bottom bar. So let me place it there. Let me set it to align center. I'll just see if this is the same spacing or not. So I'll make a rectangle to see. So it's a spacing of 24 between the columns and a spacing of 18 between the rows. So the column is 24 and the row is 18. Now this messed up everything. I will just need to add some padding on the left and right to fix it. Okay, now I'll just go in and change the properties for all the text. Now that the screen is built, let's build out the functionality and make it work. First, I'll go to prototype and drag a noodle from the idle state to the hover state of each of the buttons. So let's set it to while hovering. Now the next thing I need to do is add a number in here, the number that's going to show up when you hit the buttons. Let's set it to the same properties as this one. So I'll just go in here, copy properties, paste properties, hit Shift A to create an auto layout frame around it, resize it, and just set it to align center. Looks about right. This number is going to change based on what buttons we hit. So this is a variable. Now go to your local variables and create a variable. This is going to be a string. And the reason why this is a string is because the numbers don't need to do any mathematical operations. It's just like text. And we're going to call it display number, and let the default value be a space because you just need it to be empty right now. And I'm going to select this and I'm going to apply the variable that I just created, display number, to this one. So as you can see, there's nothing here right now because it's just a blank space, but we're going to add the functionality now. Select your first button and in the prototype tab, click on add interaction, set the trigger to on click and add a conditional action. So if the display number is equal to a space, I surrounded the space in quotation marks because it is a string as well. So if the display number is equal to a space, then add the action of setting the variable display number to 1. So when we hit the first button, when we tap the first button, it will set the display variable to 1 if there is no number already in the display variable. Otherwise, if there is a number already there, let's say you hit 2 before you hit 1, we want to add the action to set variable display number to display number plus the number 1 as a string. So what this will do is it will take whatever numbers are already there and just add 1 to those. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing for all of the others, but there's one more thing we need to add here if you want to add the functionality of showing the backspace when there is a number there. So I click add a nested action, and in fact I'll just add it to the first one because even if there's one number, we want it to show the backspace. So I click add set variable, change the show backspace variable to true. So I'll just write true in here and that should do it. Let's see if it works. If I hit 1, you see the digit 1 appeared and also our backspace button appeared. I can type it as many times as I want. Let's add the same functionality to all of the others. So if you click here between the left edge of the panel and the actual interaction, you can hit Command C or Control C to copy it. And then I can select another button, click in this area again, and just hit Command V. And this will paste the exact same interaction there. And now I have fewer things to change. So I still need to work to make it, I need to do some work to make it work how I want it to, but it's just slightly easier, just fewer things to do. So I'll just do this now for every single button. Now that I've added the conditional interaction to all of them, let's see if it works. Oh, so now you can type whatever number you want. Great. Now I just noticed that this is kind of looking funky, a lot of them. So I'll go back and fix my component. And I think if I just set it to fill container, this should fix it. Yep, it did. So now the next functionality we want to work on is making the backspace work. For that, let me set an interaction on this button, which says on tap. This will again be a conditional. And this is going to say if the display number is not equal to a space, then setting the variable display number to a space. To make it look nice, I'll add the device to 16 Pro. Now let's see if everything works. So I can press all of the buttons and that changes the number displayed here. And I can click on the backspace to make it go away. And you see, when I click the backspace, it did not go away. So let's see what we need to fix. So in the interaction for the backspace, let's set another action. We are going to set variable, which is the show backspace, to false. Now this should, and it should not be else, it should just be in here. So I just dragged it in here in the first if statement. There's no else that we need. So let's see now if it works how we want it to. So now when I click on it, the backspace went away. So type whatever and the backspace shows. And when I click the backspace again, it clears everything and it also disappears. So now that we have made it once, you can just change the appearance. You can change the system color mode from dark to light. And you have both of them. And this will work as well, just like the one we just made. So it has the exact same functionality because it's the same thing. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below and see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.